But now moving on to Lewin's force field analysis theory. So Lewin's force field analysis theory proposes that situations are maintained by an equilibrium between driving forces that push change to occur and restraining forces that hinder a block change from occurring. So basically this theory underlines that in a situation there will always be driving forces which push change or which encourage change to occur, and then restraining forces which sort of hinder change from occurring. And so it's a situation is the way it is because of these interactions. And we call these counteracting forces because driving force is what is encouraging change, restraining forces is kind of blocking the change from occurring. And I kind of like to think of it as like a car, because you can think of, your driving forces as the accelerator, your restraining forces as the brake. And so in terms of a situation, and if change is likely to occur, that's when your driving forces will be more than your restraining forces. So if a car is to move forward, your acceleration has to be more than your brake, right? But then the moment that you hit the brake, or the moment that your brake overpowers, your acceleration, that is going to bring the vehicle to a stop. And so it's the same sort of idea that when your restraining forces actually overpower your driving forces, that suggests that change is unlikely to occur. And so it's all about these two counteracting forces, and really change depends on which force overpowers the others. So, for example, you've proposed a new change to your business. And so, like we established before, our driving forces are the factors affecting the situation that propel it in a direction that cause and slash support the change. And then with our restraining forces, these are the factors that resist the direction of driving forces and act to actually decrease them, which ultimately blocks the proposed change from occurring. But then if the driving forces are more dominant, or if they overpower our restraining forces, then our proposed change will be successful. There will be a higher chance that whatever change that we would like to implement will be successful. On the other hand, where our restraining forces overwhelm our driving forces, this will mean that the proposed change is unlikely to be successfully implemented, and the business will need to develop an action plan to minimize the strength of restraining forces so that driving forces are maximized and then change can occur. If you're in a situation where both of these forces are in an equilibrium, meaning that there's the same weight, the same number, or we have the same strength of driving forces and the same strength of restraining forces, then no change will occur. The situation will stay the same and the proposal will not go through. So you can just kind of think of it like it's only where your driving forces overpower your restraining forces when change will occur. So with this theory, there are three main principles. The first principle is that if driving forces are met by restraining forces at a similar level, it is likely change will be unsuccessful. So we kind of talked about that before. The second principle is that when driving forces are more dominant, business change will likely to be successful. And then the third principle is that if restraining forces overwhelm the driving forces, or they're greater than the driving forces, it will be unlikely that change will be successful, and then the business will need to develop that action plan to reduce the strength of its restraining forces. Okay, so in terms of our driving and restraining forces, these are the whole heap that we need to actually know. And since they've been explicitly listed by VCA and they've been explicitly listed in the study design, we need to know them individually. So do make sure that you are familiar with all of the driving forces and restraining forces. So with our driving forces, we have owners, we have managers, employees, competitors, legislation, pursuit of profit, reduction of costs, globalization, technology, innovation, and social attitudes. And then with restraining forces, we have managers, time, organizational inertia, legislation, and financial considerations. So we'll go through all of them and what they actually mean.